The Zarvian Empire had ruled the outer sectors of the galaxy for over 3 centuries. Their fleets were massive, their weapons advanced, and their arrogance unmatched. For the Zarvians, no other species could ever challenge them, not even in the remotest star systems. Every fleet officer, every admiral, and every soldier believed in one unshakable truth: the Zarvian Empire was invincible. Commander Zorak strode across the bridge of the flagship Eclipse, his 4 eyes scanning the star charts with precision. Outside the reinforced viewports, the black emptiness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with twinkling lights of distant suns. His officers moved efficiently, their claws tapping at consoles, their voices calm but disciplined. "Reports from the edge of our territory," Zorak growled, his deep voice echoing in the control room. "Status?" Lieutenant Korvek, a wiry Zarvian with sharp reflexes, turned to him. "Sensors have picked up an object entering our space. It is moving at high speed, approaching Sector 12. We have no identification on it." Zorak narrowed his eyes. "No identification? Scan it for weapons, shields, and energy signatures. I want a full profile immediately." The bridge hummed with activity as consoles beeped and flickered. The object was unlike anything the Zarvian scanners had ever encountered. It wasn't a freighter, and it didn't match any known fleet vessel. Its shape was sleek and streamlined. Unlike the bulk of Zarvian warships, there were no visible energy shields flickering with power, no massive weapons bristling from its hull. Yet it moved with a precision and speed that defied logic. "Commander," Korvek said, his voice tense. "The ship, it isn't transmitting anything. It's quiet. But its speed and trajectory, it's not like any known vessel." Zorak's claws tapped impatiently on the console. "Quiet? Unidentified? This is unacceptable. Send a probe immediately. I want to know who or what we are dealing with." Within moments, a small reconnaissance drone shot into the void, its sensors aimed at the approaching object. The bridge crew watched intently as the data began to stream back, and then they saw it. Zorak froze, his 4 eyes widening. The markings on the ship were unmistakable. They were symbols from a species long thought incapable of space warfare. Symbols of a human warship. "Impossible," Zorak muttered under his breath. "Humans? Here?" Lieutenant Korvek looked at him sharply. "Sir, could it really be a human vessel? We have no records of human starships beyond their home systems. How could it have reached us?" Zorak's mind raced. Humans were supposed to be a primitive species. Their homeworld was small, their technology limited, their fleets minimal. The idea that a human warship could appear unannounced in Zarvian space was absurd. And yet, there it was. "Open a channel," Zorak commanded, his voice steady despite the unease building in the room. "I want to speak to whoever commands that vessel." The bridge fell silent as the crew waited. Moments later, a calm, clear voice filled the chamber, echoing from the ship's interstellar communication system. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the warship Dauntless," the voice said. "We are entering your space. We do not seek conflict. We only request safe passage." Zorak's jaw tightened. "Safe passage?" he echoed. "In our territory?" He could feel the tension rising among his officers. The humans were speaking with confidence, almost as if they belonged here. And worse, they showed no fear. Korvek leaned closer, whispering, "Commander, their weapons, their shields. I can't detect anything. They're not using standard defenses." Zorak's mind was in turmoil. He had studied every known species in the galaxy, but humans had always been a mystery. Small, fragile, and seemingly defenseless. They were considered unworthy of serious attention. And yet, this single vessel radiated something Zorak couldn't. Identify competence, precision, and an underlying strength that made him uneasy. "Deploy an escort fleet," Zorak ordered, finally regaining his composure. "I want eyes on them. Do not fire unless I give the order. And prepare all weapons just in case. I don't care if they look harmless." As the human warship continued its steady approach, Zarvian fighters swarmed from the Eclipse. Sleek, aggressive vessels designed for battle, they moved with practiced precision, ready to strike. Yet the humans did not panic. They did not evade with frantic maneuvers. They held course, calmly observing the approaching attackers. "Report!" Zorak demanded as the first wave of fighters approached the Dauntless. "They are adapting," Korvek said, disbelief in his voice. "Every maneuver we attempt, they anticipate it. Our fighters, they are struggling to engage effectively." Zorak's heart pounded in his chest. The humans were outmaneuvering them. Small, fragile ships that should have been easy prey were dancing through Zarvian fire with uncanny precision. Every attack was countered, every tactic anticipated. "How is this possible?" Zorak whispered. More to himself than anyone else, Captain Voss's voice returned over the channel, calm and unhurried. "Commander Zorak, your forces are strong, but your assumptions about us are outdated. Humans adapt, humans learn. You will find that we are not easily defeated." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. No one had expected the human to speak with such confidence. No one had expected the Dauntless to survive even a single wave of Zarvian fighters, and yet it had done so with ease. "Hold formation," Zorak ordered, trying to mask the rising fear in his voice. "We will regroup and analyze. Do not engage further until I give the order." But deep down, Zorak knew the truth. The humans had already changed the game. They were unpredictable, clever, and terrifyingly efficient. And the more he observed them, the more he realized that his entire perception of human weakness was wrong. Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Captain Voss moved among her crew with quiet confidence. Every officer, every technician, and every pilot knew their role. The humans worked as a single unit, coordinated and precise. There was no panic, no hesitation, only focus. Lieutenant Rin, the ship's navigation officer, reported, "Captain, sensors show the Zarvian fleet is larger than expected. They are mobilizing additional waves." Voss nodded. "We expected that. Prepare countermeasures. Prioritize speed and adaptability. Remember, they can overwhelm us if we act predictably." Her crew executed maneuvers that were nearly impossible, weaving through the Zarvian attack patterns, striking and retreating with a grace that left the enemy baffled. Every human action seemed to defy logic, every choice unexpected. Back on the Eclipse, Zorak could feel the morale of his crew faltering. Officers whispered, pilots hesitated, and doubt began to creep into the minds of the most seasoned Zarvian commanders. One thing was certain: the humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. "Commander," Korvek said, voice trembling slightly, They're outmatching us. How can a single ship do this?" Zorak's claws clenched in frustration. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we will find out. The Empire does not fail. We will understand this, and we will destroy it if necessary." But even as he spoke the words, a small, unwelcome thought crept into his mind. What if this was more than just a ship? What if humans were more than what history and intelligence had led him to believe? The stars outside seemed to shimmer with tension, and for the first time in centuries the Zarvian Empire felt uncertain. And aboard the Dauntless, Captain Voss smiled faintly, knowing that the first step in their campaign had been successful. Humans had arrived in Zarvian space. Humans had survived the initial test, and the galaxy was about to learn a lesson that the Empire would never forget. The final moments of Part 1 saw the human warship gliding calmly through the void, a single beacon of unexpected power in a galaxy that had never taken humanity seriously. The Zarvian Empire scrambled to respond, but for the first time the stars themselves seemed to favor the humans. The Zarvian Empire had always believed that its fleets were unmatched, massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons, squadrons of swift fighters, and advanced AI targeting systems, all of it built to crush any enemy in its path. Yet, as the fleet regrouped around Sector 12, a new unsettling truth began to emerge. One human warship, small and sleek, had already outmaneuvered their first wave of fighters. Commander Zorak paced the bridge of the Eclipse, his four eyes blazing with anger and confusion. "Prepare a second strike," he barked. "This time we hit them hard. Do not allow them to escape. I want this ship destroyed." The bridge officers moved quickly, but even as they mobilized the fleet, a quiet unease hung in the air. Something about the humans unnerved them. It wasn't just that they had survived the first attack, it was how they had survived. Lieutenant Korvek broke the silence. "Sir, the humans are adapting to our attack patterns. Every maneuver we attempt, they anticipate. It is as if they know exactly what we will do next." Zorak clenched his claws. "Impossible. No species can read Zarvian tactics. We are perfect." But the proof was undeniable. The Dauntless, the human warship, moved with almost preternatural skill, dodging energy blasts, weaving between fleets, and striking back in ways that left Zarvian officers speechless. On board the Dauntless, Captain Ilara Voss stood at the command center, eyes sharp, voice calm but commanding. "Prepare for the next wave. They will send more ships, bigger ships. Focus on precision. Every action counts." Her crew responded without hesitation. Humans had always relied on adaptability and teamwork, and now it was paying off. They moved, as a single unit, each officer anticipating the other's actions without words. In the tight corridors of the Dauntless, the air buzzed with efficiency. Pilots gripped their controls, technicians adjusted systems mid-combat, and engineers rerouted power to shields and weapons with perfect timing. The first of the second wave, Zarvian fighters swooped in, sleek and armed with plasma cannons. They expected an easy kill. They were wrong. The Dauntless released small drones that scattered and emitted countersignals, confusing the Zarvian targeting systems. Fighters spun and dodged, weaving through the humans' defensive patterns. Even when the Zarvians fired their energy weapons, the Dauntless seemed to anticipate every move. "Shields at 80%, Captain," Lieutenant Rin reported. "Their weapons are strong, but we are holding." Voss nodded. "Good. Keep the drones active. Focus on mobility. Let them make mistakes." And the Zarvians did make mistakes. Each overconfident maneuver left openings. The humans exploited them with lightning precision, disabling engines and weapons on individual ships without causing total destruction. They were surgical, strategic, and terrifyingly effective. Back on the Eclipse, Zorak's officers were beginning to panic. "Commander," one hissed, "they're too fast, too clever. Our fleet cannot keep up with them. They're outthinking us." Zorak's mind raced. He had spent decades learning the tactics of every known species, yet here were humans, executing maneuvers he had never imagined. Every assumption about them had been wrong. He had always believed humans were weak, fragile, and predictable. Now, that belief was crumbling. "Concentrate fire on their engines," Zorak ordered, desperation creeping into his tone. "We will disable them. Focus on the engines. Do not underestimate them," the fleet responded, but it was already too late. The humans had anticipated such a move. Using rapid thruster adjustments, the Dauntless shifted positions, avoiding concentrated fire. Then, in a brilliant counter, the human ship fired precision plasma pulses at the attacking fighters, disabling several without destroying them. "Impressive," Voss murmured, watching the display. "They learn, but we adapt faster." The battle continued for hours. Zarvian fleets, confident in their technological superiority, threw everything at the human warship. Yet each attack failed. Humans used guerrilla-style space combat, leveraging speed, unpredictability, and clever tactics to turn every disadvantage into an opportunity. Zorak watched in disbelief as the Dauntless launched a feint maneuver, pretending to retreat. Half the Zarvian fleet pursued, eager to finish the fight. Then, with surgical precision, the humans circled back, striking exposed wings of the fleet and disabling multiple ships simultaneously. The Zarvians had been lured into a trap they didn't even see. "Commander, this cannot be happening," Korvek whispered. "Their ship, it is alone, yet it fights like an entire fleet." Zorak's jaw tightened, the whispers of doubt spreading. Among his officers were now impossible to ignore. Humans were not just clever, they were innovators, thinkers, and fearless in battle. And the Zarvian Empire, proud and arrogant, was beginning to realize that it might not be invincible after all. Aboard the Dauntless, Voss moved to the tactical station, her eyes scanning the holographic battlefield. Rin, coordinate the next strike, send the drones ahead but keep them in formation. I want the enemy confused, not destroyed. We need them to learn fear, not just suffer loss. Rin nodded. Understood, Captain. Drones deployed. The Zarvian pilots, already shaken, found themselves caught in a relentless series of traps. Every time they thought they had the humans cornered, the Dauntless shifted tactics. The humans were unpredictable, creative, and terrifyingly precise. On the bridge of the Eclipse, Zorak's face was pale by Zarvian standards. He had fought countless battles, faced enemy fleets, and conquered entire star systems. But nothing had prepared him for this. A single human warship had inflicted heavy damage on his forces, and for the first time he felt fear. Send the dreadnoughts, Zorak finally roared. Our fighters are insufficient. Deploy the capital ships. They must be destroyed now. But even as the massive dreadnoughts jumped into the sector, the humans did not falter. Using a combination of speed, misdirection, and cunning, the Dauntless exploited gaps in the larger ships' formations. Plasma pulses struck critical systems, engines failed, and shields faltered. The dreadnoughts were built for raw power, but humans used strategy and intellect, not brute force. Hours passed, and the human ship continued to hold the upper hand. Zarvian morale was breaking. Officers argued, pilots hesitated, and whispers of doubt spread through the ranks. For the first time, the Zarvian Empire experienced something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Finally, Zorak called for a retreat. Fall. Back. Regroup. Do not lose more ships. The human warship did not pursue aggressively. Voss understood the value of restraint and psychological advantage. They had proven their power and sent a clear message. Humans were not to be underestimated. As the Zarvian fleet pulled away, damaged and demoralized, Voss allowed herself a small smile. Good work, everyone, she said. This is only the beginning. The galaxy is about to learn who humans really are. The Dauntless floated silently among the stars, a small but undeniable force in a galaxy that had always dismissed humanity. For the Zarvian Empire, the memory of this encounter would linger. A single warship, clever, fearless, and utterly human, had struck fear into the heart of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. After the devastating clash in Sector 12, the Zarvian Empire was in chaos. Their once unshakable confidence had been shattered. Officers whispered nervously, pilots hesitated, and the citizens began to question the invincibility of their empire. Commander Zorak stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, staring at the holographic display of the human warship Dauntless. The images were captured by damaged drones and reconnaissance probes. Lieutenant Korvek, his eyes wide with disbelief, spoke first. Commander, we cannot understand their technology, their weapons, their shields. They function differently. From anything we know, it is unlike anything the Empire has ever faced. Zorak tapped his claws against the console. We need answers. Send a fleet to capture a probe. I want to study their systems, understand their engines, their energy sources. If we cannot beat them in battle, we must learn their secrets. Several hours later, a small Zarvian strike team captured one of the damaged drones that had been disabled during the fight. Scientists and engineers worked frantically, analyzing every circuit, every energy node, every design element. But the more they studied, the more frustrated they became. Dr. Valrek, chief engineer of the research division, threw his claws in the air. Commander Zorak, this is unprecedented. Their propulsion is more efficient than anything in the Empire. Their energy weapons adjust automatically to incoming shields. Even their AI coordinates attacks in ways our systems cannot replicate. Zorak's face grew grim. Impossible. A single ship with a crew of less than 50 has held off an entire fleet. And you say it's their technology that gives them this advantage? Valrek hesitated. Not entirely, sir. There is something else. Something about the humans themselves. Their decisions, their strategy. It is adaptive, unpredictable, intelligent. Even if we replicate the ship, we may never replicate the human mind that controls it. The thought unsettled Zorak more than he expected. He had fought countless enemies in his life, but humans were different. They were small, fragile, and underestimated. Yet somehow they had survived and thrived against the Empire's most powerful forces. Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Captain Ilara Voss prepared for the next phase of their mission. The first engagement had been a test, a way to measure the Empire's response and demonstrate human ingenuity. Now it was time to strike deeper into Zarvian space. Rin, plot a course toward the communications hub in Sector 15, Voss ordered. We cannot destroy it outright, but we can disrupt their operations. Make them question their control. Lieutenant Rin nodded, fingers flying across the navigation console. Course plotted, Captain. We'll arrive in 8 hours. Voss turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Merrick. Prepare a stealth insertion team. We will disable key systems, then retreat before they can respond. I want minimal damage but maximum impact on morale. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Humans had always relied on coordination, adaptability, and rapid problem-solving. Each member of the Dauntless understood their role perfectly. Engineers rerouted energy to critical systems, pilots adjusted trajectories for maximum stealth, and tactical officers simulated countless scenarios to anticipate enemy responses. As the Dauntless entered the outskirts of Sector 15, Zarvian sensors immediately picked up the intrusion. Alarms blared across their stations. Commander Zorak, Korvik said urgently. Another human ship. They are heading directly for the communications hub. They are deep inside our space. Zorak's eyes widened. Impossible. One ship should not be able to do this alone. Deploy interceptors immediately. Block their path. The Zarvian fighters surged forward, sleek and armed, ready to confront the humans. But the Dauntless was ready. Using a combination of speed, misdirection, and stealth technology, the human ship slipped past the fighters. Tiny drones deployed to create false targets, drawing the enemy away from the real trajectory. Drones deployed, Lieutenant Rin reported. They're drawing enemy fire. Voss smiled faintly. Good. Keep the drones active. Focus on precision, not brute force. The Empire's arrogance is its weakness. Inside the human warship, the stealth team prepared for their first mission. Outside the ship, wearing advanced suits, they moved with silent efficiency, infiltrating the Zarvian communications hub. Their goal was clear: disable communications temporarily to create confusion without causing permanent damage. The humans worked like a single organism. Each movement was calculated, precise, and silent. Zarvian guards were bypassed, systems were disabled, and the hub went dark within minutes. Back on the Eclipse, Zorak watched helplessly as reports streamed in. They've done it. The communications hub, offline. How can one ship accomplish this? Dr. Valrek spoke cautiously. Commander, it's not just the ship. It's their strategy, their creativity. They are not bound by conventional tactics. They improvise, adapt, and exploit weaknesses we never considered. Zorak gritted his teeth. For the first time in centuries, he felt doubt. Humans were not just surviving, they were challenging the Empire's very foundation. As the Dauntless retreated, leaving the hub in controlled chaos, Voss sent a message directly to the Zarvian Emperor. Your empire is vast and powerful, but it is flawed. We do not seek conquest today. We only show you that humans are capable. Underestimate us at your own peril. The message spread like wildfire. Across the Empire, officers whispered, pilots hesitated, and civilians questioned their leaders. Humans had done more than strike. They had shaken the Zarvian confidence. Back aboard the Dauntless, Voss reviewed the operation. Well done, team. This is only the beginning. The Empire will recover, but we will be ready when they do. Rin nodded. Captain, sensors show the enemy is regrouping. They're sending larger fleets, preparing for a counterattack. Voss's eyes narrowed. Let them come. We will be ready. Remember, our strength is not just in firepower. It is in our mind, our adaptability, and our will to survive. That is what makes us human. In the heart of the Zarvian Empire, fear was spreading. The idea that humans could travel deep into their territory, disable critical infrastructure, and retreat without loss seemed impossible. Yet it had happened. Their assumptions about the humans had been wrong, and that mistake was already costing them. Commander Zorak clenched his claws. Prepare a task force. I want answers, not excuses. We must understand how they did this, and we must prepare for the next engagement. Humans cannot be allowed to strike again. But even as he spoke, a small nagging thought persisted in his mind. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were clever. And no matter how many task forces he deployed, no one could predict what they would do next. And somewhere, far from the Empire's command centers, Captain Voss looked out at the stars. The humans had arrived. The Zarvian Empire had underestimated them, and the galaxy was about to witness a force unlike any it had ever known. The Dauntless continued its journey, moving silently and efficiently, a small ship carrying a powerful message. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were not just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and warriors capable of changing the course of the galaxy. And deep in the heart of the Zarvian Empire, a whisper spread again. That can't be a human warship, can it? The question echoed in every command center, every fleet, and every citizen. Doubt had been planted, and once doubt takes root, even the strongest empires can tremble. Humans had shown their first real proof of power. The Empire had learned a lesson it could not ignore. Human ingenuity was a force no one could predict and no one could contain. The Zarvian Empire was no longer confident. Fear, doubt, and frustration ran through their ranks. Commanders whispered to one another, officers argued, and fleets moved hesitantly. One human warship, the Dauntless, had proven that their supremacy could be challenged. And now the humans were preparing to strike again. This time deeper into the heart of the Empire. Captain Alara Voss stood on the command deck of the Dauntless, eyes fixed on the star map. Rin, she said, plot a course through the asteroid field near Sector 21. It's heavily monitored, but it's the shortest route to the supply stations. We need to disrupt their reinforcements before they can fully respond. Lieutenant Rin nodded, fingers moving quickly across the navigation console. Course plotted, Captain. We can arrive in 6 hours, but we'll need to move carefully. Sensors show multiple patrol fleets in the area. Voss smiled faintly. Perfect. That's exactly why we're going. The humans thrived in situations that others found dangerous. Zarvian fleets relied on sheer numbers and advanced technology, but humans relied on strategy, creativity, and adaptability. They were unpredictable, and that made them deadly. As the Dauntless approached the asteroid field, the Zarvian patrols detected the intruder almost immediately. Commander Zorak, Korvek reported. The human ship is heading straight for the supply lines. They are moving through the asteroid field. It is dangerous, but they are proceeding without hesitation. Zorak's claws tightened around the console. They are reckless, or brilliant. Deploy the interceptors. Stop them at all costs. The Zarvian fighters surged forward, weaving through the rocky field, weapons primed. But humans had anticipated the attack. The Dauntless released a flock of small drones that scattered in every direction, creating false signals that confused the Zarvian targeting systems. Shields at 90%, Lieutenant Rin reported. They are aiming at decoys. We have clear paths. Voss nodded. Good. Keep the drones active. Focus on the supply stations. Disrupt, don't destroy. We want them shaken, not enraged. Inside the human ship, every officer moved with precision. Engineers adjusted energy flows. Tactical officers simulated enemy responses. And pilots guided the ship through the asteroid field with skill that left no room for error. Humans were small in number, but their coordination made them feel unstoppable. The Dauntless reached the first supply station. Zarvian defenses were minimal, but the humans approached cautiously. Using precision attacks, they disabled power conduits and communication links, cutting off the station from the main fleet. They left the station structurally intact but rendered it useless for the Zarvians. Excellent, Voss said. 1. Down. Move to the next. The Zarvian Empire, meanwhile, was in chaos. Zorak had deployed a secondary fleet, hoping to catch the humans in a trap. But the Dauntless was already 2 steps ahead. They anticipated the moves, used the terrain of the asteroid field, and avoided direct confrontation until absolutely necessary. When the Zarvian fleet finally engaged, the Dauntless executed guerrilla-style attacks, striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could respond. The humans were small, fast, and intelligent, everything the Zarvians were not. Each strike caused confusion and doubt. Zarvian officers began questioning their leaders, wondering how a single human ship could hold such power. Zorak's frustration grew. They are attacking but not to destroy. What is their goal? Why not obliterate us while they can? Korvek hesitated. Commander, I believe they are teaching us a lesson. They are not just fighting, they are showing us what humans are capable of. They are brilliant, sir. We cannot predict them. Zorak's face darkened. He had never faced an enemy that could outthink him. The humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless. They used intelligence, not brute force, to gain the advantage. Back on the Dauntless, Voss coordinated the final strike. The humans targeted the main supply hub where the Empire stored energy, weapons, and essential resources. The attack was daring. One mistake could mean destruction, but the crew moved like a single organism. Engineers rerouted power, pilots threaded through the asteroid field, and tactical officers identified weak points in the defenses. Energy conduit exposed, Marek reported from the weapons station. We can disable the hub without full destruction. Voss nodded. Do it. Minimal damage, maximum confusion. Plasma pulses struck the hub's energy core, disabling its systems. Alarms blared across Zarvian stations. Pilots scrambled, but the Dauntless had already retreated, leaving chaos in its wake. The humans had struck deep into the Empire's heart and emerged unscathed. Zorak's claws trembled as he watched the reports. Impossible. 1 ship. And yet they have crippled our supply lines? How? Dr. Valrek approached him cautiously. Commander, it is not just the ship. It is the humans themselves, their thinking, their adaptability. It surpasses anything we have seen. They are not just fighting. They are outsmarting us at every turn. Zorak slammed his claws on the console. We cannot allow this to continue. Deploy the dreadnoughts. If 1 ship can do this, then a fleet of our largest warships will stop them. But even the dreadnoughts struggled. The Dauntless used speed, cunning, and clever maneuvers to avoid confrontation until it had reached strategic points. When it did engage, it struck at vulnerabilities the Zarvians had never considered: shield generators, energy lines, and weak points in their formations. Each attack was precise, surgical, and devastating. The humans were small in number, but mighty in mind. They were not relying on numbers or brute force. They relied on strategy, creativity, and adaptability, qualities that the Zarvian Empire had dismissed as unimportant. Hours later, the Dauntless emerged from the asteroid field, battered but intact. Zarvian fleets had suffered significant losses. Supply lines were disrupted and morale was shattered. Officers questioned their leaders and whispers of doubt spread like wildfire. Captain, Rin said, we've completed the mission. Supply lines are disrupted. Enemy morale is weakened and our crew is intact. What's next? Voss's eyes gleamed. We wait, observe, and prepare. The Empire will recover, but when they do, they will underestimate us again. And humans never make the same mistake twice. The message was clear across the Zarvian Empire. Humans were no longer to be ignored. 1 ship, 1 crew, had challenged the might of the largest fleets and emerged victorious. Fear had begun to take root, and doubt was spreading through every level of command. Zorak stared at the reports, realizing that the Empire's previous confidence was shattered. Humans were clever, fearless, and unpredictable. They had shown that intelligence and ingenuity could overcome raw power. And somewhere, aboard the Dauntless, Voss looked out at the stars, thinking ahead. The humans had won the battle, but the war was just beginning. The galaxy would soon witness the full scope of what humans could achieve. not just through weapons, but through cunning, teamwork, and unyielding determination. Deep within the Zarvian command, a single thought echoed in every officer's mind. That can't be a human warship, and can it? Humans had proven they could fight against impossible odds and win. The Empire had learned its first true lesson. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And as the Dauntless disappeared into the dark expanse of space, a new era was beginning. One where humans were no longer the underdogs. They were the clever, fearless force that could challenge even the greatest empires. The turning point had arrived. The Zarvian Empire had faced its first real defeat, not through massive fleets, but through human ingenuity and courage. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Zarvian Empire had never faced such a challenge. For centuries they had ruled with confidence, believing no species could rival their strength. But now, a single human warship, the Dauntless, had shattered that belief. Commanders whispered, in disbelief. Officers hesitated and fleets moved cautiously. The Empire had been tested and found vulnerable. Captain Alara Voss stood on the command deck, surveying the stars ahead. The humans had achieved remarkable victories, striking deep into Zarvian territory, disrupting supply lines and demonstrating strategy and ingenuity that no one had anticipated. Yet Voss knew that the greatest challenge was still to come: consolidating their gains and ensuring humanity's place in a galaxy that had dismissed them for too long. Rin, she said, turning to her navigation officer, plot a course to the core sectors. We will establish a foothold in controlled space. Minimal confrontation, maximum psychological impact. We want the Empire to know humans are not a passing threat. They are a force to be reckoned with. Lieutenant Rin's fingers flew across the console. Course plotted, Captain. We can reach the outer edge of Sector 25 in 8 hours. Enemy activity is high, but our previous engagements have given us insight into their patrol patterns. Voss nodded. Good. Prepare the crew for coordinated operations. Every move counts. Humans had always relied on intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork. They were few, but their coordination made them formidable. Engineers adjusted energy flows to optimize speed and maneuverability. Pilots calculated precise trajectories, and tactical officers simulated enemy responses, ensuring every decision was informed and effective. As the Dauntless approached the outer sectors, Zarvian forces scrambled to intercept. Hundreds of fighters and several capital ships moved to block the human warship. Commander Zorak himself oversaw the operation, determined to crush the intruder and restore the Empire's shaken confidence. Commander, Korvek reported nervously, they are heading straight for the heart of our sector. We cannot allow them to reach the core. Deploy all available fleets and engage immediately. Zorak's claws tightened on the console. Engage. Do not let them escape. The Zarvian fleet surged forward, confident in their numbers and firepower. Yet humans had anticipated this. The Dauntless deployed decoy drones, creating multiple false targets that drew the enemy fire. The real ship moved swiftly and unpredictably, avoiding the brunt of the attack while striking at critical points in the Zarvian formation. Shields holding at 75%, Rin reported. Decoys effective. Enemy fire is dispersed. Voss's eyes gleamed. Excellent, keep moving. Target their command ships and supply vessels. Let them see we are more than just a ship. We are the human force. Inside the Zarvian fleet, confusion spread. Officers shouted orders, pilots struggled to coordinate, and dreadnoughts found themselves vulnerable in ways they had never anticipated. A single human warship had turned the battle into chaos. Commander Zorak, Korvek said, voice trembling. We are losing cohesion. Their tactics, they are unpredictable. How can one ship do this? Zorak's face darkened. They are not just a ship, they are humans, and humans are different. Back on the Dauntless, Voss directed her crew with precision. Marek, prepare the disabling pulses, target their engines and communications. Rin, calculate escape routes. We strike and retreat. Efficiency is key. The humans moved like a single organism. Engineers rerouted power to optimize weapon systems. Tactical officers analyzed enemy formations in real time, and pilots guided the ship through tight asteroid belts and planetary rings to avoid detection. The first wave of disabling pulses struck. Zarvian engines sputtered, shields faltered, and communication lines went dark. Panic spread across the enemy fleet. For the first time, the Zarvians felt fear, a fear born not of overwhelming force, but of cunning, adaptability, and precision. "Captain," Marek said, "enemy dreadnoughts are immobilized. Fighters are in disarray. They are trying to regroup." Voss nodded. "Perfect. Retreat before they recover. Let them remember the humans' capability." As the Dauntless moved away, the humans left behind a clear message. The Empire could be challenged, its forces outsmarted, and its confidence shattered. Every officer who had doubted humanity now understood the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Zorak watched helplessly as his fleet struggled to regain order. "This cannot continue," he muttered. "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by one ship. We must adapt or perish." Meanwhile, Voss addressed her crew. "We've done more than win battles. We've changed the perception of humanity across the galaxy. The Empire will recover, but they will never underestimate us again. Today, humans have proven they can fight and survive against impossible odds." The crew nodded, pride and determination shining in their eyes. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy and emerged victorious, not by numbers or brute force, but by ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. In the days that followed, humans established a small but secure foothold in Zarvian-controlled space. They repaired supply hubs, formed alliances with oppressed species, and demonstrated that their power was not only military, it was strategic, moral, and innovative. Across the Empire, doubt turned to fear. Commanders questioned their leaders. Pilots hesitated in battle, and whispers of human capability spread from sector to sector. The idea that one species could challenge the Zarvian Empire had once been laughable. Now it was undeniable. Zorak realized the truth. Humans were not just clever. They were resilient, adaptive, and fearless. They had used intelligence, creativity, and courage to overcome obstacles that would have destroyed any other species. And in doing so, they had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Voss stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, looking out at the stars. The crew had performed brilliantly, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would attempt to strike back, but humanity had proven something far greater than victory in a single battle. Humans could endure, adapt, and overcome anything. The final step of their mission was symbolic, but powerful. The Dauntless transmitted a message to the Zarvian Emperor. "You may rule the stars, but humans will not be ruled. We are here, we are capable, and we will not be ignored. The galaxy will remember this day." The message spread across Zarvian-controlled systems. Citizens, officers, and allies alike took note. Humans were no longer a minor species in the galaxy. They were a force of innovation, courage, and resilience. Deep within the Zarvian command, a single thought repeated itself. "That can't be a human warship, can it?" It was the question that would haunt the Empire for years. A single ship had done what the largest fleets could not. A single species had challenged centuries of domination. And a new era had begun. The Dauntless continued its journey through the stars. A small vessel with a giant impact. Humans had won not just through strength, but through ingenuity, unity, and determination. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were clever, fearless, and capable of extraordinary feats. Captain Voss turned to her crew. "We've done something remarkable. Remember this moment. Humanity has shown its power. We are no longer underestimated. And we will continue to lead, innovate, and inspire. This is only the beginning." The crew smiled, their hearts filled with pride and hope. They had faced the impossible, challenged the greatest empire in the galaxy, and emerged victorious. And as they looked out at the endless stars, they knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had changed forever. The Zarvian Empire had trembled, and humans had risen. One warship, one crew, and one unwavering spirit had proven that human ingenuity and courage could overcome even the mightiest foes. And somewhere in the heart of the Empire, The Emperor whispered again, in disbelief. That can't be a human. Warship, can it? The words echoed through the galaxy, a reminder that humanity had arrived. The era of fear, doubt, and underestimation was over. Humanity would no longer be ignored. They had begun a new chapter, a chapter in which the clever, brave, and resourceful humans would shape the future of the stars. The Dauntless glided silently into the void, carrying not just humans, but a message of hope, courage, and ingenuity to the entire galaxy. One ship had changed the course of history. One species had proved that intelligence, creativity, and determination could triumph over power and arrogance. The galaxy would never forget the day the Empire trembled, and the humans rose.